你身边是否有同学一夜走红？我最近刚好见识到身边普通的大学同学突然受到全世界的关注。他是一名华裔学生，叫田景远，英文名是 Edward Tian。田同学开发了世界上第一个 ChatGPT 检测软件，它叫做 gptzero， 主要功能是识别文本是由人还是 AI 生成的。gptzero 目前已经积累了700多万用户，并获得了350万美元的种子资金。但这个炙手可热的软件真的能不负众望，还是只是昙花一现？
One big thing that kind of stood out to me thinking about GPT-0 conceptually is like, could it theoretically be used to cheat on an assignment? Assuming it's free and open to the public online, couldn't a student theoretically use ChatGPT to cheat on an assignment and then avoid getting caught by using GPT-0 to identify and change the parts that were flagged as AI generated?
Oh yeah, fascinating question. Coming out with it. Here's kind of like our roadmap for what GP0 is supposed to do. So we launched in like January 1st, New Year's. This was my thesis work at Princeton, and build it into an app. And I mean, over 7 million people have like tried it out on the website now. And the initial impetus in January was we had to get something out there as like AI detector because no one else was doing that. OpenAI did that sort of in February after, and some folks have told me it was like the GPT-0's like impetus that put a little bit of public pressure. I think on our roadmap, it's hey, we can build detection in general, and then we can have like different layers and different types of detection. Use detection not as like this tool to catch students, because I don't think actually like AI plagiarism really makes that much sense. Like educators are still figuring out what is like plagiarism with AI. And then on the flip side, we're building out tools for students to prove that it's 100% able to us as a human, in terms of not just like the AI check after it's like finished, but also like Google Docs and like going through the edit history to see that, hey, you wrote this essay, and giving you like a verified proof stamp at the end. So I think that's like switching it around.
Okay, so you've already kind of been accounting for this whole possibility.
Yes, because I think the use case has like shifted dramatically. Like initially, it's like a lot of teachers using these apps, but now it's like everybody as well.
Where do you draw the line, for example, when it comes to brainstorming ideas for an assignment? Do you consider that plagiarism or just drawing inspiration?
Personally, I don't consider that plagiarism at all. NANI? I'm actually like a huge like supporter of tools like large language models and ChatGPT. In fact, like in my own like coding process, I use some of these like equivalent large language models like GitHub Copilot to support like coding. In terms of generating ideas, I think it's a very valid tool, but you just have to know that there's potential downsides that, hey, this tool might be prone to biases, it might be prone to just putting out the mainstream idea, because that's what large language models are programmed to do.
As far as I know, like Google, for example, now has like detect Bard for Google Bard. Do you like have plans to kind of like outcompete those alternatives out there?
A lot of these alternatives, I guess, are like everybody's trying to get a little like piece in this industry. It's like kind of like GPT-0 is out there and everyone was like, wow, this was it, whether you're OpenAI turned in or a lot of these folks. I don't think it's Google making something like detect like Google Bard or whatever. I think it's just like third-party services. I would say the problem is we've tested some of these folks are just taking like open source research papers and repurposing them and just with like a packaged UI. And you don't really know who's behind some of these products. You don't really know like what happens if things go wrong, who's accountable. And some of these research papers are not meant to be applied to industry.
Do you feel like overall GPT-0 can sort of keep up at the rate at which ChatGPT is like getting smarter over time? Kind of,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would say so. I think what's in this like arm race between the AI development and gptzero, I would say there's definitely an edge for detection in terms of it's a lot easier to build better detection than build like larger language models. My co-founder and I did a big model push this weekend to just like update all of gptzero's models. Pretty much it is a data game that now we like generate large amounts of data from BARD, from OPT, from Bloom, from even like Chinese language models.
You mentioned Chinese like language models. I'm curious, like what if any plans do you have to enter the Chinese market?
Yeah, well, I would say like out of servicing the languages beside English, like Chinese is, top priority. Chinese is what I speak at home. I've recently had like entire work meetings for gptzero in Chinese because we've been approached by like Microsoft offices in China to collaborate. I'm not as familiar as what like the markets look like or the industry, but in terms of building out detection research for Chinese, that's like an exciting research space that like interests our team for sure.
You, I think, mentioned in like a recent article that the government is also a potential customer.
Yeah, I would say in terms of this is more on like North American governments have recently put policy boards and like submissions for industry leaders to help craft AI policy. Actually, with a friend at Tsinghua right now, we're submitting like a policy proposal to some of these.
When you mentioned like using Chinese language models earlier, I'm assuming that Tsinghua is like would be a pretty big resource for that. Like, how did you get in touch with like people at Tsinghua?
This is actually a Princeton friend that's currently doing a master's there.
Oh, wow.
I think sort of this like entrepreneurial spirit also comes from like my parents and grandparents being like immigrants. Switching to Chinese, like 我小时候跟我的爷爷奶奶在北京长大的，然后呢，我的奶奶是我的 hero. First, I guess they immigrated to from Beijing to Dongjing in Tokyo for like many years, where I was born, and then they immigrated again to North America. So it's like I would say like the risks I'm taking is like a minute percentage of the risks my parents and grandparents take, and that's definitely like very inspiring for me.
欢迎多多留言，不要忘了一键三连哦。好了，我们下期见。